So from an NBA draft perspective, the NBL has 6 players that we've been tracking, and as we get closer and closer here, I've been thinking for next Sunday, maybe we do an early mock draft.
Ooh, okay.
Bryce?
Okay.
Maybe.
Maybe.
We'll see. That could be a fun one. But as we get closer and closer to college season starting, we're having these European leagues and Australian leagues start now. For instance, Ben Seraph played today. He had 21 points. Nolan Traore had a bit of a rough game to start his professional season over in France. Where I want to start is with the NBL, because we've actually got like a decent sample of these games now, where all teams have played 4 games, 3 preseason games, 1 regular season game. I was there for the NBL Blitz, got to see these teams up close. Hoop Fest happened over in Perth. A few NBL personnel got there. I think something like 30 to 35 NBL people or NBA people were out here in Australia over the course of the last like 2 to 3 weeks, basically. The guy that has made the biggest impression so far is Alex Toohey.
Yeah.
I believe that you've watched a couple of the Blitz games, right?
Yeah, I've watched him. I just didn't see the most recent game. That's in the queue right now.
Yeah, he was quite good yesterday. So he had 20 plus points in his first 2 Blitz games. He sat out the first Blitz game with just like a very minor ankle thing, where if it was a regular season game, he would have played, but because it was a preseason game, they were like, we're not going to mess with this. He had 20 points in his first 2 NBL Blitz games. Then yesterday, has 15 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. It was like a plus 29 or something like that in this game. Their starting lineup was absolutely outstanding. Their starting lineup's really, really fun in Sydney this year. The jumper looks fantastic. He drilled 3 of 5 from 3. It looks super pure. I watched them practice. I can tell you that like he's getting real close on some of these like no dip corner threes in terms of getting it off real quick. The shot looks super pure right now. Every single time that I see him, I am a buyer in Alex Toohey being a very high level shooter is where I'm at.
Yeah, I thought it looked really good in the games I've watched. It's funny you bring up the dip, because that was my notes going back to even last year. Is I thought like the mechanics looked good. I thought it was a little bit slow and he needed to eliminate the dip. So obviously that was something he recognized in his coaches and, whoever he works with. And so if that's something he can do, and that, obviously right now he's shooting ridiculous. He's shooting 69% from 3 right now. He's not going to shoot that all year, but if he ends up shooting 38 to 40% on the season on 4 attempts, I wouldn't be shocked based on how it looks so far. And then you combine that with a lot of the other stuff he does in terms of cutting and making quick passing decisions and some of the versatility, the offensive rebound anticipation, maybe a little bit of versatility on the defensive end. Like it's a really interesting wing forward all around package that he could put together.
So one thing that he struggled with last year was dealing with contact. And we saw that a little bit. You'll see in the first game that he played in the regular season against Adelaide yesterday. I felt like we saw a little bit of that pop up. Like he went 2 of 7, I think, in the from 2-point range. Like he got bumped a little bit yesterday. His frame looks like, I can tell you from having stood next to him and talked to him last season to having stood next to him, talked to him this season. His shoulders, his arms, like his chest, he looks way stronger, way bigger. And his lower half looks way stronger. He is still maintaining that the same level of lateral quickness to me that he had last year. And I thought he was pretty valuable as like a versatile defender in the NBL. I have some questions on how that'll look. The name that like I think of when I watch him kind of is a beloved Detroit Piston. Simone Fontecchio, baby. It's a similar kind of mindset to what that is. Like it's a very similar idea to what Toohey, I think, can be to what Tech is for Detroit and for what he was with Utah.
Yeah, I mean, I saw this Twitter interaction. I think did somebody say Joe Ingles? Did somebody say Joe Ingles?
Yeah, it's not Inglesy at all. It's not remotely close to Ingles.
Yeah,
Ingles is like more of like a point forward.
Yeah, he more of a passer. I think I put Dean Wade in my stuff from last year. Maybe that's underselling him
I like
a little
that
bit.
one too.
Okay, is that one? Dean's a little bit taller, I think, than Toohey. I did the quick math here. 29% from twos through these 3 games is Alex Toohey. So struggling a little bit from there. You know, he's shooting, like I mentioned, 69% from 3, and that dumps down to 54% overall from the field. So he's got to figure that out. You know, he's kind of an awkward finisher. But lots of times he does end up making it, you know, based on stuff from last year. So that will be something to track throughout the season. I thought he did move pretty well in the blitz game I saw. And then one thing that always stands out to me when I watch him, he's an awesome communicator defensively, Sam. And that's something I've tried to like really hone in on as I've talked to more scouts and kind of grown my network. That's something they bring up to me a lot is, oh, I could hear this guy talking, or I went and watched this guy and he didn't communicate. I couldn't hear him talking. And so that really stands out to me every time I watch Toohey play.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of Toohey. I would have him as a first rounder right now for what it's worth. 6'8" with a 6'11" wingspan. He came in at like a 9-foot standing reach at Hoop Summit in 2023. I'm gonna guess it's more like 8'10" if I'm just being completely transparent. I don't think it's quite 9 foot. If it is 9 foot, I mean, my goodness, like that is, if you're that good of a shooter and you can move, like he might go in the top 20 if like he really comes in that big and has the season that I think he's going to have. Like the way I've thought of it with Toohey is he's a better prospect than Bobby Clinton. He's the same age as Bobby was last year. He's going to be more productive than Bobby was last year in the NBL. Like I can just tell you, I feel quite confident of that. And they're similar, 6'8", 6'11" wingspan. Bobby's maybe a little bit bigger, a little bit more flexible, you could say. But I don't know how functional like Bobby's ball skills actually are on an NBA court. And I trust Alex more on defense than I do with Bobby.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. So I really think that Toohey's I think he's a first rounder. Yeah. I do.
Yeah, I mean, if he continues to shoot it well, and show that.
That's where I'm at. Okay, the next guy that's worth talking about is Rocco Zikarsky. So Rocco is going to be Tyrell Harrison's backup. The first thing I want to say is like Alex Toohey is 2 years older than Rocco, right? That's just, it actually might even be like 2.5 years older than Rocco. So when we compare productivity and everything like that, Rocco's is going to be lower than what Alex's is. That's the reality of the situation. You shouldn't expect any different. I think Rocco is going to play in the NBA. I feel quite confident of that. He played like 6 or 7 minutes, I think, yesterday.
Yeah.
Those minutes weren't particularly good, I didn't think. You know, he has dealt with like a couple of little minor ankle injuries in the preseason again. So like we're probably not seeing him at full blast yet necessarily. He's 7'3". I think he moves fairly well for being 7'3". Block shots, has the kind of mindset where he does want to like dunk on people, really has that kind of aggressive mentality that I love and appreciate from bigs. Like he's not afraid to be physical, has kind of high hips where you can get moved around a little bit, I think, too easily. But I would expect that we will see better from Rocco throughout the season. I will also note, I'm like not yet 1,000% convinced he's a 2025 prospect. Well, let me rephrase. I don't know what their plans are. Maybe they're just like 100% going pro this year and that's it. But I think what I would say is I'm not yet convinced that being a 2025 draft prospect is what is best for his long-term development. Maybe is the way to put it. If only because I think he is going to be an NBA player. I think that his tools just are what they are, and he has the right mentality to do it. Like he's going to continue to fill out his frame and get stronger, but he's only going to be 18 on draft day. He is so young, and he has a very immature game right now. I think that there is a real case maybe for if this season is a little bit slower for Rocco, holding him back to 2026.
Yeah, that's where I have him right now. Like, obviously, he's on my big board, and he's a name I'm familiar with. I haven't watched anything yet this year because I was kind of waiting for a game where he played more minutes, or one of these regular season games where he plays one of the other guys. We'll talk whether it's Malique Lewis or Henshall or Almansa or whoever. And so I haven't watched this season yet, but right now I a little bit more leaning to maybe this is a 2026 guy, especially when you consider, like you said, he's 18 until July 11th.
Yeah. And that's not to take away like from what he is long term. Like I again, like he's going to be an NBA player. I feel quite confident of that. It's just trying to figure out what the best pathway is for him at this point and where his game exactly is. Because in the NBA now, if you can't play within your first 2 years, realistically, it gets really tricky. It gets really, really hard. NBA teams don't really have the time to deal with like serious, significant projects. So while I think Rocco has like significant tools to be an NBA player, I just worry that it might be a year away still. And that's okay. Not a slight on him. It's just that he's 18 and he just turned 18. And like, I got to meet him at the Blitz, like awesome, like, had like so many great conversations with him. And, I think he has the right mentality and like sees who he is as a player as well. Like in the way that you want him, like he doesn't think he's like some offensive creator. You know what I mean? He doesn't think he's like a ball handler. He's just he's going to be a screener, a rim runner, a shot blocker, and a guy who hopefully continues to improve as a drop coverage defender. I think that there's a real shot that he can be a 2025, but it's going to take real growth throughout the course of the season. And I think there's a chance that will happen for sure, especially as he gets into, better condition, is he gets a better chance to play on the ankle that, again, he's had like minor stuff, nothing remotely serious, to be clear. But like, for instance, he sat out the last 2 games of the Blitz, right, with a twisted ankle. I would like to see Rocco continue to grow and continue to like, I don't think there's any reason to speed up this timeline, I guess is my point. Yeah. Despite the fact that I definitely think he's going to play in the NBA.
Yep. I'm with it.
Next, I will ask you, I had an agent text me yesterday and ask me to rank the 6 NBL prospects.
Okay.
I will ask you, who is third for you?
After those 2?
After those 2.
So our options are Henshall, Almansa, Lewis. Who am I forgetting?
Lachlan Olbrich.
Oh, yeah. Olbrich. Love Lachlan. He had a good game the other day. He had double-double, right?
Yeah, he's good. Lachi's a good player.
Lachlan is good. Okay. I'm going to go Ben Henshall, and I'll just start my Ben Henshall campaign right now.
So for what it's worth, to be clear, I also had Henshall third.
Okay. We'll talk about the other guys. I actually really like Malique Lewis, but Henshall is just really interesting to me. Did you see the shots he made in that game the other night? Like, they were ridiculous, Sam. Pull up transition 3, step back 3 off a ball screen, step back on the baseline, and then I can't remember the third one. I think it was a floater in the lane or something like that. Like, it just all 4 level of difficulty. He made some rough passing decisions, but I do think he can pass little. He's got to get.
So like, to me, I thought the passing was what really stood out to me on, what was that, Friday night?
Yeah, no, I think he had really good what he did a good job of is Bryce Cotton was hot, and he did a really good job finding him when he needed to.
Totally.
He had a couple where he got in the lane and he had wide open guys on the wing, and I thought he didn't see those as well as he should. But there was a lot of really, like, that's a little bit nitpicky.
Yeah, look, he had 10 points and 7 assists, right? Yeah. Like he played 20 minutes. He was outstanding, I thought, in that game. The thing with Henshall is that he's a very creative basketball mind. You can see it in the way that he plays. Like, he has this great feel for how to get guys on his hip to keep them in jail. And he has this great feel in ball screens. He has this great feel for getting into the mid range and scoring and playmaking and things like that. But often I feel like he struggles to like kind of moderate the aggressiveness.
Sure.
I thought in this game, it was maybe the best I've seen him moderate the aggressiveness.
Yeah.
And like pick his spots and then like realize that Bryce is hot, get Bryce the ball, the ball, right? That's what really impressed me. And then I went back and watched his game, for the defensive side because I was curious. I thought it was the best he's played defensively.
Okay. Interesting.
Like I thought that he knew exactly, and look, like he was really poor defensively last year, and he knows that even, right? But I thought, at the blitz, we saw him take on tough assignments like Parker Jackson Cartwright. And in this game, I thought that he talked a little bit better. I thought that he very clearly was like aggressive and was on point rotationally in a way that, was hit or miss. Let's go with last season. So I think he has shown real growth. I do think for this Perth team, which is among the deepest teams in the league, it's probably going to be a moving target in terms of playing time to an extent. But it seems like he's ahead of Elijah Pepper right now, which is huge. It seems like he's really got a shot to continue to, rise up. Just turned 20 years old, I believe, in May or June, maybe. Definitely, to me, a real NBA prospect.
Yeah, and June 22nd.
Yeah, I would have him mocked right now, at the very least. So top 60.
Yeah, no, he's a really interesting player, and it was good to see him come out with that first game and play the way he did, because I knew there were, you and I had talked, is he going to get the rotation minutes? How much playing time is he going to get? And, if he does, like you said, exactly what he did in that game, hopefully he keeps those minutes, maybe earns a few more, but I think he's really able to show his talent even in the minutes that he got in that game. And the defense has definitely taken a step forward. And so he just got to continue to grow and improve that. But that combination of ability to handle the ball, make shots, make tough shots, but also create for teammates is, really intriguing. And it's something I would assume NBA teams are really taking notice of, especially if he can balance it by being solid on the defensive end of the floor as well.
Yep. I think that is right. Next for me would be Almansa. The first thing you asked me about Almansa is he skinnier?
Yeah. I thought it stood out. I just was making sure I wasn't seeing things because I thought it really stood out.
No, he very clearly is like really thinned out, probably in an effort to improve the lateral ability and everything. He looks like a different kind of player to me right now. Just in terms of where he is physically, he is skinnier. He's moving better, I think, laterally. My issues with Izan last year were always that I felt like he got like his shoulders kind of up over his ankles and like feet a little bit defensively, and like didn't have great balance. And I thought he could get hit defensively in space, but I think he's just moving better right now than what he did last year. It's clear they've done some work there in terms of the defense in space a little bit. Look, they're not asking him to like switch out all the time onto perimeter players, right? But I do think he's going to have a really good year. I think he's been solid so far for Perth.
Yep.
Still like a little bit of a tweener physically because I don't think I buy the shot yet.
Yep.
But he can pass. He's a great finisher. He has great hands around the basket. The thing that he can do that I thought they struggled with a little bit with Alex Sarr last year was he's going to really be able to like short roll. Teams love to put two defenders on Bryce Cotton in ball screens. He's going to really be able to short roll and be that release valve for them that they lacked last season at times. And it wouldn't surprise me if we look up and Almansa ends up having maybe like a slightly more productive season, or like it'll just be like a little bit different, I think, than what Alex did. And I still think Alex is a better prospect long-term than what Almansa is, but it wouldn't stun me if Almansa ends up having a similar impact, if not like even slightly better in terms of their team success than what Sarr did last season.
Yeah, I think the short roll stuff is really important. I thought his touch has really shown through in the action I've seen so far this year with Perth. Obviously, he can pass. That's one of the big draws with Almansa. So, getting him in those short roll situations where he can either go to the little floater or read the weak side is really beneficial for him. I find myself asking, what do I want to see to really believe? I've always struggled with Almansa, even going back to last year. Some of my most heated conversations with other people in the space was how low I was on Almansa because I just like I can't quite see it. Is he a four? And now that he's lost weight, is he a 4-man that can't shoot but can really pass, but is going to be really versatile defensively? I don't think I always saw that versatility and that switchability. So it will be interesting because I think now that he's slimmed down, he really has to lean into that, right? It's not going to be any sort of anchor of the defense or something like that. So can he provide that offensively? I don't think the shot's going to be there. He's been good from the free throw line so far. And then defensively, can he be, just disruptive and switchable and have that versatility?
Yep. The next guy that is worth talking about is Malique Lewis. It's been a bit of a slower start for Malique to this point. I think he is still like a draftable player for sure, but it feels like he's still kind of like getting his confidence and like getting his feet wet and get the lay of the land a little bit in the NBL compared to the G League last year. It took him some time in the G League, so I'm not wildly surprised by that, maybe is the way to put it. But the thing is that Malique is going to be like very, very, very essential for the Southeast Melbourne team because the Southeast Melbourne team has a chance to be one of the worst defensive teams I've seen in a while. They're starting Derek Walton, Nathan Sobey, Joe Wieskamp, Matthew Hurt, and Jordy Hunter, none of whom are particularly good defenders. They need somebody with Malique's length, athleticism, ability to guard, like really to form two-way lineups. So I think Lewis is going to be a really important player for them down the road. It's just taking him some time to adjust. And I think it's almost worth checking in on him in like a month and seeing where it's kind of landed.
Yeah. So for people who aren't familiar, he played in the G League last year with the Mexico City Capitanes and then went over to Southeast Melbourne. Hasn't shot it well here to start. Shot it decent last year in the G League, 38% on over 3 attempts. He just hasn't found the shot yet. And that's obviously going to be huge for him. Really good wingspan. I think he has the potential to be a really good off the ball defender. Like he has a wingspan, low man rim protector type of player. In the NBL Blitz games, he had some nice drives to the rim that I was impressed by. That's something I want to just see him be able to rip and go, attack closeouts, those type of things. Obviously can cut an offensive rebound. But yeah, it'd be once he gets his feet wet and gets, a feel for it, I'll be interested to see if the jumper comes around and if the defense is as impactful as what I think it needs to be for him.
Last guy, Lachlan Olbrich. Lachlan Olbrich is somebody that I have had my eyes on for a while. I mentioned him a lot last year at the Blitz because he was outstanding at the Blitz last season. Had like a bit of a lesser impact throughout the regular season last year, but this year he's very much in Illawarra's rotation. I think he had like 12 points and 7 rebounds, 10 and 7, something
double
like
double.
that.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, you had a double in the first game?
I believe so. I don't think I'm wrong there. Yeah.
Yeah,
12,
no, you might.
Yeah, 12 and 11 in 20 minutes.
Yeah. He was really productive and really awesome in that game. I couldn't remember exactly what the numbers were, but again, I think real potential draftable player, very skilled, can dribble, can lead the break, has potential to shoot it, I think is where I'm at. I think he's a better shooter than Izan Almansa and probably a better bet to shoot than Almansa. It's just what is the position kind of for the NBA? He's always been one of those guys that strikes me more as a FIBA level player as opposed a high level FIBA player as opposed to an NBA guy, given the way the teams are going in the NBA, where they want rim runners, or if you're going to have the ball in your hands, I think Lachie projects to at his peak, your level has to be so fucking high to play in the NBA as a big man and have the ball in your hands. You have to have better skills with the ball than guards do and that wings do. And those guys are crazy good in the NBA. So that's where I'm at on Olbrich. I love him. I think he's a very real, he's going to play for the Boomers for a long time to me. He is a guy that has a real shot to play in the NBA. If you told me he's like a backup center for a while in the way that like Jock Landale figured it out later, I believe that. But I worry about what the defensive position is because he's smaller than Jock. He's probably like 2 inches smaller than Jock, if you made me bet.
And these guys are sometimes hard to sell NBA teams on, to give them a chance on a guy who, like, he plays so hard and he has a real understanding of the game and positioning and where to be. And like, one of my favorite things to watch guys do is set the weak side flare. So, action's happening on the strong side, whether it's a ball screen or a downhill drive or whatever, and the guy on the weak side goes and sets a flare for a teammate. I love the players that are willing to do that and he does stuff like that, or just understands positioning to get an offensive rebound or defense. Like he's gonna be in the right spot with the right position. It's just, does he have enough size, or is the athleticism enough, or does he do those things enough to be productive as the level of competition would go up in the NBA? But he's really fun to watch. He's been extremely efficient, Sam, so far in the NBL, making shots. You talked about the skill level. So a player that's really fun to watch, definitely worth keeping an eye on all season, just to kind of see, does he show off some of the shooting? What's the defensive upside and position? Like you mentioned, definitely worth keeping a track of.
I totally agree.